Hello, hello. We are finally back after the new year. We'll wait for Anne-Marie to get on here. And we'll get this thing started. Hi, Agnes. Good to see you. Hi, Michael. Waiting. There we go. Hi, Miriam.
Hello. We're back.
We are back.
Hey, Agnes. How are you doing? We missed you this morning.
Yeah, it's still a little weird, but I totally missed yesterday mornings too. I have to go back and watch the replay still. I'm still trying to get back into the routine. So yeah, so I think we'll just kind of get going so we can kind of keep it within that shorter time frame that we had talked about on the last one. And I think you just had like a couple of announcements or something you wanted to say first before we got it going.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting here just realizing that I can share this while we're speaking. It's so weird. Okay. Yeah, so we are going to start trying to keep this under a certain time limit, mostly because we realize people have families and things to do, but also that those that join it for the rewatch, replay, it can get a little long and hard to catch some time to actually watch it. That last one went super long, but I think it was kind of necessary. It was kind of a good topic that, a lot of people wanted to talk about. So we're going to try to keep it to 30 minutes. If it goes over a little bit, that's okay. We want to incorporate some different things in it with prayer and things like that, and see how that goes. And then if we have a topic that, that seems to be something that we want to carry on, that we'll just continue it for the next week. Told Amy I changed my room around. I moved my couch, so I don't have the one frame right behind, but the two frames right behind me, but I'll try to get her in the frame next week. And the other thing is that we're doing this for a purpose of, like we call it, raw and real, is that we are having conversations that are very raw and real to us and to many of the people that are watching, and that's what we want. We want to start conversations with one another so that we are there for people. I don't know about you, Amy, but I found when I was walking through certain circumstances, trying to find those people that understood or that could relate to me, or that I could learn something from while walking through it, didn't seem to exist in my inner circle or my close circle where I am, or geographically. And so we just want other people to know that we all experience difficulty. We were never promised that we wouldn't. And that we're going to have those conversations that you might not have been able to have with other people. And because they do need to be had, we have to have those conversations. So many people in the past, I know, especially from different generations, what's the little saying? I'm terrible at sayings. Like, when you keep things close to the cuff, what do? You don't. I'm terrible with sayings. But
you got me on that.
When you keep things, to yourself, or you don't really share things, you don't feel like you can. That now, like, the part of loving like Jesus is being able to be there for one another, and we cannot be there for one another unless we're talking about it. And so we're talking about it. Amy and I are getting real and raw. You might see us cry a couple times sometimes, but that's okay. You'll see plenty of laughing too.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, I know a lot of you on here just kind of know how the end of 2017 ended for me, that it wasn't anything that, I'm going to do my best to get through this, not anything that I expected to be walking through. Hey, Kimmy. But I wanted to start this off by telling you thank you. Thank you for your support, for your messages, for your prayers. You know, we're doing this tonight because, like my dad would tell me, it's time for you to start walking into your new normal. Here we go.
That's okay. We're raw and real.
And we don't have to like it, and it doesn't feel good, and it's not easy, but we have to. And I just wanted to tell you guys thank you, because those prayers and that support and those messages brought the most tangible peace and the Lord's presence into my life over the last couple of weeks that I can't even like really put words to it. I told my husband, it felt like this cloak that was over me and allowed me to walk through each moment, each day, in his peace, in the midst of this heartbreak and this really difficult thing. And, you know, I'd already walked through it losing my mom 9 years ago, and to have to walk through this again so soon, it's pretty much taken my breath away. But the prayers and the support have been so meaningful to me, and it just says to me all the more, just the level of community the social media can bring.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to thank you guys for that, to start this whole thing off. Okay, I pulled myself back together. You know, and I kind of wanted to share a little bit about this journey. It was right after Christmas. You know, my dad had already been in the hospital for a little bit, and it was a couple of days after Christmas that we got the call that he wasn't doing very well. And so we drove south to the hospital where he was at. And the whole time I just had that thought process, that emotion and that prayer of fully expecting a miracle, fully expecting that healing. And I found myself in the midst of this, you know, you've got this tug of war going on with your mind and your emotions of like, do I need to prepare myself for the worst, or do I just ignore it and just expect the miraculous?
Mm-hmm.
And I chose to just, you know what, I'm just going to expect the miraculous. And so I found myself praying, you know, like the power that raised Christ from the dead is the power that lives in me.
That's right.
And I was fully prepared to be that crazy person that walked into the hotel room and walked up to my dad and, you know, laid my hands on him to pray and watch that miracle happen. I was fully prepared for that. But when I walked, like as soon as I got to the doorway of his room, I literally just was hit with this peace and this understanding that he was not there anymore. And it was okay. Like I was perfectly okay with it. And it was the weirdest, that's like the best word I can come up with. It was the weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yes, I mean that sadness and that heartbreak hit me too. So, you know, you go through all of the motions of all of that. And then even still in the midst of that, it was his peace. His peace just overwhelmed me. And I think I probably was more overwhelmed with my emotions because of the peace that I felt.
Right.
It was like right there with the grief of losing my dad. And once you walk, like once I've like kind of stepped back from that, I had that level of understanding. And this was not something that I had when I lost my mom 9 years ago. I was completely a different person at that point. But this time I stepped back, and it was that understanding of your ways are higher than my ways. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts are higher than my thoughts. You see more than what I see. You understand more than what I understand. So even though I don't like it, and especially that I don't understand it, and I have a lot of questions for you, Lord, I can, at the end of all of that, I can sit there and say, but I trust you.
Yes.
I trust you. in the midst of the heartbreak, in the midst of the sadness, in the midst of the loss, I trust him. And I've not had very many moments in my life where I felt the tangible presence of peace surrounding me. And I wish I had better words to describe it, because that literally is what has been carrying me on each day, each moment. And I guess I shared that because I wanted to just encourage you guys that, you know, it doesn't matter what situation it is, you know, we can always be in expectation of the miraculous. We can always be in expectation of all of that goodness. But even when things don't happen and we don't understand it, we can trust that he's still a good father, and his purpose and his plans for us as individuals are still at play. They're still unfolding.
Right.
And the purpose and plan that he had over my dad's life, he fulfilled. He
Right.
totally fulfilled. And there's a peace that comes with that as well. So I'm going to stop on that part with the peace, because I know Anne-Marie had some things about peace that she wanted to share, and then we were going to move into something next.
Well, a lot of it. Hi, Debbie. I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah.
And everyone else who joined. Hi, Brad. One of the things, I think Sarah popped on there too. Yep, she did.
Yeah.
You were talking about, and it struck me when we had just a few minutes to talk before we did this. It feels like we haven't talked in weeks. Where we were talking about God's ways are higher than our ways. And when you really think about it, I mean, that's what we have to truly trust in. And my situation was a lot different. Hi, Brad. When I lost my dad, it was very sudden. It was the first parent I lost. And the only other person that I had lost that was so close to me was my grandmother. And that was when I was 17. So that was many, many years ago. And I was a totally different person when that happened. But when my dad was taken from us so suddenly, we were actually in the midst of grieving my uncle, his younger brother. I mean, his younger brother was only 65. My dad was 71. And my uncle had passed away of a heart attack. And I had woken up that morning knowing that I had to go and start preparing for my uncle's funeral with my cousins. And I was actually in prayer and just like so grateful that I had both of my parents, and letting God know how much I appreciated that I wasn't walking through this, but I needed to help me be this person for my cousins. And so as that day transpired and I'm driving home, literally thinking of turkey sandwiches and white chicken chili to make that evening, here I come upon an accident, and it was something completely different than what I expected as the day went forward. And here I had just been telling God that I thanked him that I wasn't in this situation right then. And here I was, like within a few hours of having that conversation with God. So I was, I could have fallen apart in many ways and even become angry, but just as you said, there was a certain amount of peace that God overwhelmed me with, in everything that kind of transpired in the days that followed with that. And I'm not going to go into a million details. I know we've talked about my dad's accident and stuff before, but one thing that gave me a huge amount of peace, I think I was talking about like the day before his service, and I was planning everything because my mom was still in the hospital. So I was doing a lot to get that ready and kind of frantic. And I think I had told you before, I had put down my Jesus Calling devotional, and two people had messaged me and said, hey, read this. And on that day, it talked about getting all of your ducks in a row and getting things together so that you covered all your bases. Well, I went to go grab my Jesus Calling, and I didn't have this out the last time, but I did mention it. In the front is this October 23rd date written. It is my handwriting. And I had no idea why was that sticky note there. For whatever reason, I had stuck it there probably a year before that when I was using it, maybe even 2 years before that, but it was still there. So I opened to that date and I read it, and this brought me such peace and comfort. And I think it can even describe how you felt probably when you walked into that room, but I also know how I feel like it was what my dad experienced in his moment of seeing Jesus. And there's that peace that you feel. And it says, as you turn your attention to me, feel the light of my presence shining upon you. Open your mind and heart to receive my heavenly smile of approval. Let my gold-tinged love wash over you and soak into the depths of your being. As you are increasingly filled with my being, you experience joyous union with me, I in you and you in me. Your joy in me and my joy in you become intertwined and inseparable. I suffuse your soul with joy in my presence. At my right hand, there are pleasures forevermore. I mean, picturing Jesus saying that to my father as he met him that day just overwhelmed me and allowed me to walk through that service with my mom, who literally came out of the hospital the day before. I had such peace about me. It was like the day just kind of flowed, and it was true. That was a miracle in itself, because there's no way I would have been capable of making that happen myself. I mean, so he really, trusting in him with something like that. And there were so many little things that, I mean, this was over a 2-week period. My mom was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Every day there were multiple things that brought peace to my heart, and he knew he was doing that. Like, it was very purposeful what God was doing every single day. And I think he did the same for you in your circumstances that allowed you to walk through that. The grace was amazing that he gave to you.
Yeah, he really did. And even in those moments where I kind of felt myself kind of slipping a little south, it was inevitable. Every time I started kind of withdrawing, which, you know, we tend to do sometimes, it was inevitable. I would get a message from somebody. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, I'm praying for you. And the Lord just uses this community to inject us with his love and with his hope. And, you know, and it's also, I'm going to kind of segue into it follows us into a level of obedience that we have when our lives are surrendered to him. You know, the whole time I was praying and expecting this miracle, I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be anything I said or did. It was all on him.
Right.
I was just willing to be obedient. And go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, type it up, Sarah.
Awesome. I already pinned one of your comments, and I'm going to get to it just a second. So like today, I was doing my homework, Agnes. I was reading my chapter for today, and it was about Noah. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about it. You know, I had a bunch of notes from a really gorgeous teaching that I listened to from Joseph Prince about the ark. And if you guys want to listen to a teaching about Noah and the ark, watch Joseph Prince's. It's absolutely amazing and so much revelation. But as I was sitting there and I was reading back through the notes and I was rereading that scripture, I just had this like little revelation just for me. And I just really felt led to share it with you guys tonight. And that revelation is about Noah, and that his greatest accomplishment, I wrote it down because I knew I would forget it. His greatest accomplishment wasn't necessarily building the ark. It was keeping himself holy in a corrupt land and being obedient to the Lord's request. You know, that the whole point of Noah building this ark was to save him and his family, the select few that were still pure and holy in the midst of all of that corruption. And what a feat in and of itself. And then being obedient to the Lord's request. I mean, he was building something that he didn't know anything about. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know really what its purpose was for, but he walked in obedience into all the unknown. And that's kind of what I feel like we are all doing at some level or another. We're walking in a level of obedience where we don't quite have the full vision of what the Lord's wanting us to do. And sometimes, you know, that holy walk is going to maybe look super crazy to some people.
Yeah.
You know, I can imagine, you know, the ridicule and the mocking that Noah received building a boat, you know, in a land that really hadn't seen any water.
Right.
You know, blood, what's that? Um, you know, it's just, you know, I was willing to just taking it back to that moment in the car when I was praying on the way down to my dad. I was willing to look crazy. I was willing to be that crazy freak of nature, if you want to call it that.
I still am ready.
I was totally willing to be that crazy person because I was at that place of desperation. And I think real, true obedience has you in that place of desperation. We are all at some point going to be at a place of desperation. It's not always in like trauma situations. It can be in joyful situations as well, but there's always going to be a place of desperation that's going to push you beyond your limit to walk in blind obedience, if I can call it that. That blind childlike faith. You know, children don't understand everything, but they trust who's giving them the instructions. And so we have to be that way as well. And then one more thing, I was going to talk about the ark, and then I was going to let Anne Marie fill in. Part of the teaching that Joseph Prince did is he walks through the parts of the ark and all of that. And I'm not going to even attempt to plagiarize anything that he taught. Two things that stood out to me today, and that the door of the ark was in the side, and that the ark is representative of Christ. And the door is in his side. So, you know, walking into that, that's our entrance into, you know, he was pierced for our transgressions. He was wounded for our iniquities and all of that stuff. And we have to walk into it, into obedience. You walk into Christ in obedience. And then the other thing was the windows. They were up at the top. They didn't allow you to see anything around you. They didn't allow sight for anything. The only thing you could see was up, so it directed your gaze upwards. And I guess that just spoke to me today, because that's really where I am. I'm just, there's a part of me that is just being hidden away, because I've got some healing that he's going to be doing in me, and just keeping my eyes and my gaze upward. You know, focus on him, waiting for him to bring that dove, bring that olive branch, to bring that healing and that restoration that is going to happen each year. That's going to be the next moment. So I wanted to stop there and let you fill in and all.
You're totally fine. Actually, I mean, you can keep going on. I wanted to go back to Brad's comment where he put down the Passion Translation of Psalm 23:3. He offers a resting place for me in his luxurious love. His tracks take me to an oasis of peace. I just love that Passion Translation. I've asked for it for Mother's Day. I have the Song of Songs, but that's the only one I have. I want the whole thing. But when Brad posted that, it reminded me of, you know, you were talking about different situations that we can walk through, and yes, some of them can be good, and peace, he can bring us peace. I mean, for me, and I'm just now thinking of this, if you think of a circumstance that's not a trauma, is, well, maybe it is, getting on here.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this would be very traumatic for me. I mean, not like what we've walked through as far as losing a parent or something, but it's a difficult thing. And I don't know, like, you know, had I done this at a different time, you know, alone in a different way, I don't know that there would have been as much peace, but I waited until I felt the Lord was asking me to do this, and it felt right with what we were talking about and what we both wanted to see come from it. So there was a peace that he allowed when we first went live that I was not fearful at all. I did not, I mean, I wasn't scared. I walked through that whole thing. And each time we get on, I mean, we might have anxiety of actually getting set up, because like me rushing home tonight with sawdust all over me 5 minutes before I had to set up. was scary, but we were just here and we're having these raw and real conversations, and it's okay. But Brad's comment made me think of a time, I've talked before about my marriage on here. We won't go into big detail right now because we've done that before. But I just remember, like, towards the end of Marty's depression, it seemed like he was making steps on his way out of it, but it wasn't clear that things were going to be okay yet. And I actually wrote, I was praying to God. And now I just added to this because I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, I forgot about that line. Oh, wow. At the end of my prayer to him, I heard him say, is your fear of Marty greater than your trust in me? My fear of what he would do out of his depression, as far as if we would end up being apart or anything, was my fear of Marty greater than my trust in him. And so I'm just going to read this really quick. I've written back to him. Sometimes, God, I think my fear is greater. That is wrong and sinful because I'm saying the enemy is stronger than you then. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And I just was like, what do you want me to do, God? Like, what do you want me to do? And he said, be still. Be still. And I said, I will try to still my heart and mind and not be as anxious. But what can I do then for Marty so that he knows I love and I want the best? And God gave me peace in this. I mean, and what transpired in the days to come, had he not spoken these words to me, our lives could be completely different. But this one small paragraph that he spoke to me that day that I recorded, I went back to and back to and back to in the year that followed. And what he said to me was, I cannot tell you what will be needed each day and each moment. That would be giving you your future without the trust and faith I want you to grow in. Just look to me each moment and I will guide you. I will guide your words, your thoughts, and your actions. You need only to look to me and ask. And all I could come up with after that was, I love you, God. I love you, my Father. And he said, I love you too, my child. Now be at rest and wait for me in faith and trust. I will never leave you. And to me, that just what Brad wrote with the Passion Translation in that Psalm just is that right there. I mean, that peace that he filled me with, it's just amazing. So I just wanted to touch on that. I'm glad actually Brad brought that up. He wants to be our full portion, not a piece. To be free, you have to drink of the cup and eat of the bread daily. Absolutely, Brad.
Yeah.
Thanks,
yeah.
Agnes. Sarah.
Yes, I'm loving all of these comments because it's like, yes, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Amen, amen. I love how the Lord ties things together because, you sharing that you hadn't expected or you hadn't seen that yet, and what Brad had said, and I had made a note to talk about one thing. The Lord had given me. I've kind of been asking him for several months now, just, something that he would want me to, pray into for this next year. And, for several months, I had this one word for the, the last quarter of 2017, I had this word for 2018. And I'm like, oh, yes, so awesome, so awesome. And that word was fullness, walking in his fullness. And, I'm still and always will be asking for more revelation in that. But this is what I felt to share because, sometimes it's not, I'm just going to say what I wrote. The fullness isn't always fluffy bunnies and rainbows. Sometimes it's experiencing his presence in the midst of the hard stuff. It doesn't always mean grief, but fullness means all encompassing. We have to understand and experience so that we can walk in it. And that has become more revelatory to me now than it was before Christmas. In my mind and in my thought process, the word fullness, walking in his fullness, meant like going higher, going further, exponential, you know, all these really great and exciting things. And it is that. It is totally that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an all-encompassing about him. And although I experienced a certain level of this 9 years ago, and throughout the past several years of just me coming to grips with actually grieving the loss of my mom, and now the loss of my dad, it's become deeper. And that's what he wants. He wants us to have a deeper, fuller revelation of who he is. And, you know, and so the end of my 2017 didn't end the way I had planned. It didn't end the way I thought. The beginning of this year didn't start how I wanted it to start.
Right.
But here I'm walking in his fullness, and he's revealing a little bit to me each day. And I fully believe that, you know, he's going to be doing that with each of us. Did you have something to say?
I was just thinking, as you were talking about that, it just brought to me the scripture that says to experience joy. I mean, we're going to also experience sorrow. There's a time for sorrow. There's a time for joy. And, you know, to experience his fullness, don't we have to get to a point where we're in a place of being empty, you know, like where there's nothing of us left. We're brought to the end of ourselves. There's nothing there. And we have to get to that point to truly experience his fullness. And it just made me think of that. I mean, how often has that happened? And, you know, and that goes back to his ways are higher than ours. I mean, we wouldn't be in this relationship with him and in this place with him if it weren't for these things that we've had to walk through. And luckily he's walked us through them. So.
Yeah, what chapter in Ecclesiastes is that? You know, time to, what you were saying, you know, time to weep and a time to, I'm going to mess it up. I'm so bad at quoting scriptures. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm 10 times worse. So
I wish I was better.
But
I wish better. But, you know, just being real, I'm just, that's not my strength. But, you know, part of that fullness, and this is what I kind of wanted to end it with, and, you know, so that way we can stay within our, you know, 30 minutes. Sure, we're over it already.
Oh, yeah.
You know, walking in that fullness, I also felt, and I know a lot of other voices out there have shared this as well, which was confirming to me, and that is restoration. And I really just felt the need to release that word over everyone on this, whether you're on here now or on the replay, that restoration, it's an all-encompassing, like the Lord's fullness. It's a full restoration of things that are going to happen this year. But what I really felt is that this restoration, it's going to be targeting families, like family units. You know, I know family looks very different for a lot of people. It's a vast array of what family looks like. But there are certain relationships that each of you are all thinking of when I said that you know you need restoration in. And sometimes, I'm just going to put in this disclosure, sometimes that restoration boils down to you just forgiving without the apology.
Right.
And that like opens the door for the Lord to just do what he plans on doing with that specific relationship. But I really felt strongly, like towards the end of this last year, that, you know, the family units were going to be restored in a way that they've never functioned before. You know, my dad and I, we always had a really great relationship, but we would have moments where it wasn't so great. You know, that's every normal family, but inevitably we found our way back to each other. And, you know, and we, over the last several years, had not so great moments. But this last year in 2017, we had found our way back to each other. We got to experience that restoration. We just weren't given the chance to walk in the fullness of it.
Right.
And what a gift, you know. I mean, I see God's grace throughout my dad's entire year of how he helped patch some things up and heal things that I can't even imagine, not like trying to grieve without that.
Right.
And what a gift. And it all started with both of us unknowingly forgiving each other.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge part in restoration. Sometimes that restoration may not be a reconciliation. So we need to understand the difference between that. But the Lord restores. He is in the business of restoration. And so I just wanted to release that over you guys, that you guys need to hope for, be an expectation of the Lord's restoration for you in your situation, in your family, in your finances, in whatever it is that you need restoration in. I know that he will restore it all. He will redeem it all. And if it cannot be, then he will replace it all. Yeah. So it all ours. he just does it. And I just want to see that so bad. And I just have a feeling that we're going to see that manifest very quickly. Like all of these seemingly and absolutely impossible situations, I feel are going to be the first to just be like flipped.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just really, that to be like, whoa, yeah. You know, people are just going to be left with their jaws on the floor. Like, wow.
It's going to be undeniably Jesus. It's going to be done in such a way that it's undeniably Jesus for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the past year, I've really let go of some relationships and some things that, you know, I didn't necessarily want to, but there was a time for it to happen. But I believed God for the restoration of those relationships when the timing was good. And it wasn't necessarily because things were bad, but it was just something that over time there are seasons for things. And I've seen him already begin to restore a lot of those and bring them back even better than they were before. I loved what Sarah said up there. What the devil tried to ruin in 2017, God is going to redeem in 2018. Absolutely. I absolutely believe that. I believe that, not even what he tried to destroy in 2017, but what he's tried to destroy and what he's stolen in the past multiple years. I mean, I feel like there's been enough lost in the last 10 years. It's going to be like winning the lottery this year.
Yeah.
So,
but is it all years the locusts have stolen? Well, again, another scripture I can't quite quote. Restored.
Yes. Now, I did see, if you go up there a little further, Sarah had made a pretty big comment about her dad surviving.
Yeah,
and I couldn't open it up further to see the rest of that, but that, is there a way to make 3 people on this screen someday? We'll have to figure that
out. I think so.
So, but we just appreciate everyone having patience and coming back to us this week. You know, we're a week behind where we wanted to be, but that was necessary. And we almost didn't even make it tonight to me, but we're here and we'll be back again next week. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. We're not going to say that it's going to be hearing God or anything like that. We're just going to roll with it and see what God speaks to us this week and what he wants us to talk about next week. And it might be continuing some of this stuff on, you know, I do want to read Sarah's comments and some of the other ones that have come up, but it's been a good night. Really good night.
Yeah. All apart like I like I thought I was going to. So, thank you, God. Really didn't, I mean, I don't care, you know, because I mean, this is raw and real, but there's still that, you know, human part of me that I just didn't want to like fall apart on camera. So, yeah, it was, Sarah. It really was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely, Agnes.
Joel 225.
Ah,
I think
I
Joel
think,
225.
and yeah, Agnes, there's no other way to be. Open book here, transparency. I mean, that's the way I roll. There's usually no elephants in the room. If there's an elephant in the room, like, yeah, I can call that out pretty quick because I can't sit in a room with an elephant, and I can't sit in a room without like just throwing up myself all over everybody. It's just how I roll. That's
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I mean, just to be real, I was really battling. I was really battling getting back on here, but like I was telling Anne Marie earlier, I was still battling, but I was just kind of, just kind of taking those notes and just saying, Lord, what do you want me to talk about? And he brought back that phrase that my dad would use all the time. He walked with a lot of people through a lot of things. He did counseling, psychological therapy, and he would only say, you've got to start walking in your new normal. Like you can't avoid going on. And that's really kind of what I was doing. I was just trying, it was hard to just, it still is just hard to get back into that routine. But at some point, I knew I was going to just have to take a step forward. And if I was going to take a step forward to any new normal thing, this is where I wanted to be. And because this is what the Lord has called me to do, and with Anne Marie, and I'm sure we're going to grab some of you guys and put you on here. So get that he's wanting to do something through this, and I don't know the fullness of that yet, but we're willing and obedient, and that's really all that matters.
That's right.
So yeah. And that's kind of what it boiled down to for me, Sarah, is that there's something that the Lord wants us to release that the enemy wants to stop. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens, I believe Anne Marie and I are both on it today. Ryan Johnson. Oh my gosh. If you guys don't watch him or follow his ministry, you really, he and JoJo Dawson did a live broadcast today, and he was talking about a lion's roar and how it is, like all the scientific studies, is the same frequency as our voice. So a lion's roar has the same frequency as our voice, and what a powerful thing to say and to reveal. Oh yeah, that's right. You were on there too, Lori.
It was really good, Lori.
You popped on. It was so good, and it was just like, duh. It was almost like, yeah, why didn't I know that? It's like, so there is something to be said about, the power that we wield in our tongue. I mean, we all know the power of life and death is in our tongue. So, why not be speaking life? And if we can broadcast it,
Julie, it is Ryan Johnson. It's Ryan Johnson. And he also has a page, Ryan Johnson Ministries. I actually shared that broadcast on my page, so you can find it there. It was really, really good. While we're on here, if anyone wants to catch Agnes Ebony that's watching us tonight, she's on Monday mornings at 7:45, and she brings down the house in some serious prayer.
Releases some fire.
Yes, she does. Get up and be ready to go. On Mondays at 7:45 on Facebook, it's Your Week of Miracles. And then on Wednesday evenings, I think maybe 8 o'clock. I'm not completely sure. Are we keeping to 8 o'clock, Agnes? Wednesday evenings, we are on Periscope. You look for Agnes Ebony on Periscope, and we're actually walking through the Bible this year together, and we are declaring some things for this year for overall each one another, and it's just a nice family to be on there. So 8 o'clock Wednesday nights.
Hi, Poppy.
Hi, Poppy.
I hope feeling better, sweetie. I saw that. That looks sore.
Yes, Brad. Agnes is lit. She is on fire
Yes, she
in the
is.
morning and at night. I don't know when this woman rests, but she burns calories like 24/7. She
Yeah,
does.
I'm not that morning, that's for sure.
I know. Marty like walks by like, what? It's awesome. I love it. It gets me
I
going.
do too. Gets me going. Gets me going.
And
It's
then
awesome.
I can fall asleep after Wednesday night. So if you haven't followed Agnes, follow Agnes on Facebook and on Periscope.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much. And I'm sure I just have a feeling like that, maybe we'll dive a little deeper into a couple of the things that we talked about tonight next week. I just feel like there's a lot more there to talk about. So I just think maybe we'll just continue talking about that kind of stuff next week, if that's what the Lord ends up dumping on us.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
All right. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you same place, same channel next week.
Thank you. We'll be looking through the comments and saying prayers over each of you this week. As we said,
Yeah.
With families and things under attack, we're going to be covering people for sure. If you have any special prayer requests, please put them in the comments or message. You can message Amy and I together in a group message on Facebook, or message us individually. We'll be praying for you.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Love you guys.
Love
and
you.
We'll see you next week.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.